Howdy. In today's lesson, we're going to be talking about happiness. This is actually a more advanced lesson because of its simplicity. We have been brought up and really socialized into this idea that life is complicated and happiness is elusive and it is hard to grasp and hard to hold on to, hard to find. How do you find happiness? All of these things. And they're just not accurate. Study after study after study has been done on what makes people happy or what results in happiness. They've studied cultures all over the world. It is a really big area because, of course, who doesn't want to be happy, right? We all do. We're all at some level motivated by a desire to be happy, right? To be content, to be satisfied, to feel joyous, to feel good. We are designed to feel good as humans. That's why we have a reward system. Our body actually rewards us with feeling good to motivate us to do things that are beneficial to us. So we are designed to feel good. Now, some of us with addiction know that that can go awry. Now that we're moving out of that and we're on this path of self mastery, or anyone on the path of self mastery knows that we have got to work with our entire system in order to be in that experience of wholeness, right? The studies that they've done on happiness all come back with the same answer. And it's the one that we hate in the West the most. And it's why the studies keep being done and why so many books are written and read is because we don't want to just accept the simple truth that comes back from all these studies. And you're going to get to practice with it this week. This week is about happiness, which is fun, right? The secret to happiness is that it's already where you are right now. It's not a matter of bringing happiness to you, but bringing you to happiness. The answer to all of those studies is being present. When we are truly in the present, and by being in the present, I mean, yes, this here space, this now moment, but also in our bodies, not in our minds, right? Our minds tend to be anxious about the future or worried about the past. The mind is creating all this drama, right? And the body doesn't do any of that. So, what they find, and stay with me, because if you're like, really, this lesson, that's it, that's what I'm going to learn, that's what all the studies have shown that a huge component, a key component to happiness is being in the present. That means being in our bodies and out of our minds. I think it's so funny how it's said as a negative thing, like I'm out of my mind or I'm losing my mind, when really that's actually the key to happiness because it's already present. Peace, serenity, all of that is present in the moment. And truly, we only can ever find happiness in the moment because we can't experience the past and we can't jump ahead to the future. We're always here. And if we can join our bodies here, we actually have access to happiness and peace and serenity and actually doing some of that thinking and analyzing and evaluating from a calm, rational place because we're going to access more parts of our brain when we are calm. So, we're going to be talking today about how to get back to the present moment because we all travel outside of it. This is a practice, right? And we'll get out of it and we'll come back, and we'll get out of it and we'll come back. That's what it's all about. And the more moments you can spend in the present, the happier you're going to be. You do not have to believe me. You don't have to go read all those books on happiness. You don't need to do the studies or check out the research. You just have to try it for yourself, which is what this week is all about. And we're going to talk about some practices that will help make that possible, make being in the present moment more often possible. These are, again, they're going to seem simple. And I cannot tell you this enough. The true things in life are simple. When we are complicating them, and believe me, we're doing it, we're creating a drama that doesn't need to be there. Really being in the present brings a lot of simplicity with it as well, which also is a key to happiness. So it's kind of an all encompassing little practice we get to experiment with this week. We're going to talk about a few different options because different things work for different people and different things work at different times. So just like with all of our other tools, we want to have an abundance of options so that we can use them at different times. Now, little note, if you are like me and come from a background of abuse or any kind of harm to your body, whether that was in childhood by someone else, or even if you're like me, through your own action later in life, or even through others' actions later in life, whatever it is, if you have any body trauma, then I really want you to proceed with a lot of extra mindfulness in this, because I know being in the body can be triggering for a lot of us, depending on where we're at on our healing journey. So if you're working with a trauma specialist at this point, you might want to run this by them first, or just proceed with that extra level of mindfulness so you can stay in touch with what is and isn't working for you. And if the trigger is something that is appropriate to lean into and work past, or if it's time to back away. And that could go for anybody, even if you're not experiencing body trauma. Maybe you're in a place where you're feeling very reactive. Maybe you're already triggered by something else. These techniques will work with that. However, given your particular situation and where you're at in that moment, just extra mindfulness, okay, with these different practices. And you'll find in time, I imagine, and you can, again, don't trust me, just try it. You'll find that the more you do this, the less triggered you are, the less often you are feeling those strong emotions. If you've taken any of the other lessons or courses that talk about the brain and the nervous system, we know that a lot of the time when we have a trauma background, and we recognize addiction as a symptom of that trauma background, we are in our reptilian part of the brain, right? We're in our fight, flight, freeze, or please part of the brain, where our body and our brain are having the communication that there's a threat and that we need to be prepared to deal with that threat in whatever way makes the most sense. Now, we talk about these things and sometimes they feel like they're elusive, but really these are actual functions of the brain and body that are directing our feelings and our operations to function a certain way. So these practices of coming into the present are going to work with our biology to switch the systems that are engaged so that we can have calmness, so that we can feel safe, and that allows us to be in the present moment. If we're feeling triggered, and by triggered I mean we've activated that survival instinct or the on guard instinct, we're really not able to be calmly in the present because we're anticipating some danger. And usually we're drawing from things in the past, or more often than not, we're making stuff up about the future, and we're not actually checking out the here now moment and what is ours to do right now. And just a quick reminder, when we are in that survival mode in the brain, we lose full access to other functions in our body. Because, of course, the brain's top priority is our survival. Thank you, brain. And when it thinks that we are threatened, it pulls all of our resources into survival mode. It changes how our organs are functioning, where blood is going. the whole to do. It's really fascinating, and it's a really great tool if you are indeed threatened. But most of the time we're not. It's very rare to actually be up against a real threat. And those emotional threats operate the same way. The brain does not understand that they are not a real threat. Right. So that is going to have the same operation in the body. So this week, it's all about getting into the body and intentionally shifting the system of our body that is engaged. A lot of the practices we're going to be talking about, if not all of them, include the breath. We have a weird relationship with the breath here in the West, where we think it is insignificant. It is not tied to anything but our lungs and keeping us alive. And we don't understand the powerful effect it has on our brain and our body. It is one of the main communication systems we have. And we know with our vagal nerve in our nervous system, our body communicates with our brain and vice versa, right? Those are traveling back and forth constantly. And I mean that constantly, communicating so that everything functions to what is perceived as our benefit, right? And sometimes it's not, but it's doing its best. Our breath is a key factor in that communication. If you are like most people in the West, you don't pay attention to your breath and you probably are breathing in your chest in really shallow ways. Now, this is a really interesting lesson to be teaching this week because I'm actually having trouble breathing as a just a an effect of coronavirus that never let go of me. I still have some issues, and today I'm really having to take intentional deep breaths. So this is a fun and ironic lesson to be doing today, but it'll be good for me as well. So if we're breathing in our breath, we are engaging our sympathetic nervous system. And no, it's not there to hold our hand like a friend when we're sick, right? That's not what that means. That is really geared more towards our staying alive in the like very right now future, right? Like it's one of the things that's tied into that survival system, and it operates different functions of our body. Then we have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our calm and connected nervous system. It's where we naturally reside when we are healthy and healed. That's where it is intended for us to spend most of our time. Despite what is kind of our normal in the West, chronic stress is not actually natural. It's certainly not healthy, and it's not doing anybody any good. Look how unwell we are as a people. All these physical issues, this illness, and so much stuff actually comes from chronic stress because we're living in the sympathetic nervous system and we are engaging that survival part of the brain through stress and anxiety all the time. It's not how we are designed. When we are in that sympathetic nervous system, we lose full resources to our organs and to the things that keep us healthy and vibrant long term because we think that there's a threat right now. So it doesn't matter if your immune system is functioning, if you might be dead in 5 seconds, right? So things, your digestion, your immune system, other organ functions, the way your blood circulates, all changes when we are in that chronic stress response or if we're consistently feeling anxiety. So this stuff doesn't just like feel uncomfortable because anxiety sucks. It actually is disruptive to our natural operating system. So moving into the parasympathetic nervous system is not only a key to happiness, but to longevity and vibrancy and healthy living, because we're not putting our resources in these what are supposed to be short-term bursts of functioning, but we're really investing in our natural healthy state as people. The plus side of all of this is that it happens to feel a whole lot better. It's so much easier to be happy, to experience happiness and our natural state of joy. I'm going to repeat that. Our natural state, which is joy, and calm and serenity and peace. That's our natural state, just FYI, when we are working alongside our biology. So let's get into it. Let's talk about a few of these practices that are going to help engage that parasympathetic nervous system. And we're going to do that with the breath, the major communicator of our human functioning, the breath. Now, that chest breathing that a lot of us do is very shallow, and it mimics what we do when we are under stress, duress, or threat, right? If we are about to be attacked or we're in the middle of a fight, we have really short breathing, right? So the opposite happens as well. When we have really short breathing, our brain and body interprets that as we're under threat. Do you see how dangerous that is over the long term? And keep in mind, most people breathe that way, which keeps their brain and body on high alert all the time. If you get sick often, if you catch every cold, if you have digestion issues, if you have any chronic stuff going on, this could be playing a really big factor in why that is. Through the breath. What? Jace, that can't be true. Our breath can't be that important. Yeah, it is, though. It is. And again, simple. The truth is usually simple, and our breath plays a really big part. So one of the simplest things we can do, it's easy, it's always accessible, we can bring it with us everywhere, is to just bring our breath into our bellies. And by that, I mean taking full breaths. You don't have to be long, deep Om breaths or anything. We're just going to be taking a full breath. The breath is supposed to move in through the nasal cavity, down into our chest, into our lungs, and then expand our rib cage and expand into our belly, or that's how we're breathing it in, and then move back up. So one of the greatest tools you can use if you are in a space of stress or anxiety or distress, or you notice you're having all of that mind stuff going on and you're in the future, you're worrying about the past, you're creating all this drama, is actually just to take a deep breath into your belly. So a full breath. It doesn't have to, there's no special technique here. Okay, we're not talking Wim Hof, we're not talking anything. We're just talking about a full breath. So do that with me now. I know this might feel a little silly, or you might even be like, Jace has lost it finally. But do it with me. Let's take a deep breath in. And really, as you're doing that, I want you to think about breathing horizontally. And by that, I mean expanding your rib cage and filling your whole chest cavity. Okay, so sit up straight. This can be very helpful to actually align your posture, which helps open up your airways. And go ahead and breathe in through the nose, deep, with that expansive notion in mind. And you can close your eyes if you want, and you don't have to. Again, there's no special technique here. So just breathe in with me. And let your rib cage expand. And you can breathe out through your mouth if you're in a place where that's appropriate. Just sigh it out. You can breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. I'm exaggerating a little bit so you can get it on the video here, but just take a few breaths in, really focusing on expanding your belly, expanding your rib cage as you're bringing that breath in. As we do that, we are communicating to the brain and body that everything is a-okay. If we're about to be chased by a lion, we're not taking deep breaths, right? We're in that chest shallow breathing. So when we take a deep breath, we're communicating that everything's okay. And it's actually going to shift the part of the brain we're operating from, and it's going to kind of flip a switch to move us into the parasympathetic nervous system. This stuff's legit. And it's really easy. It's so easy. Happiness is actually so much easier than people think. So we're bringing our biology into the mix, right? So that we can actually be here by not being caught up in just the survival functions that we are putting our brain into through stress, anxiety, being in the future, being in the past, worrying, creating that drama. What if this? What if this? I should have done that. All of that stuff, please understand this, gets communicated as a threat, and the brain does not understand that it's not actually a threat. Okay, so you have the power here. And I know it's easier said than done, but really it's easily done when you practice it consistently over time. And this will just become natural. So this is just what we call belly breathing, right? Because we're using our belly to fully expand and bring full breath into our body. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling better already, even just from those few deep breaths. And when we're focusing in our body, we're bringing our attention, our awareness into our body, feeling the breath come through, feeling it fill our chest, feeling our rib cage expand, and intentionally drawing in those breaths, that monkey mind madness goes away because we're giving our brain something new to focus on, and it can't do both, which is really fun. It might take more than a few breaths. You might be really in a spiral space, in a triggered space, and one breath ain't gonna do it, right? Like I'm kicking it with my pups here. So it's like I got my linen pants on. I'm chilling already. So it doesn't take that many for me right now. But if I'm in a heightened emotional state, I have to do a few of those. So belly breathing is our first one that you can start practicing with. You can use it when you're feeling stressed. You can just start breathing that way all the time. And we're going to talk about some ways to remember to incorporate that. The next one is a little bit more of an intentional breathing practice that has a couple of different names to it, but it operates in the same idea, though the count on this helps. And science has studied this. We're in such a cool age where science is catching up with all of these techniques that we've been talking about and we've been practicing as people on this self-mastery path, right? So this one is one that you can still bring with you everywhere. You can use it in emergency situations, or you can use it as a normal practice, or anytime you're feeling heightened emotions, or maybe you're about to go into a meeting, or you have a presentation, or you're about to ask someone out on a date, whatever it might be. This is a great breath to engage. I'm just going to take a sip of water real quick. Okay, take care of those human needs. So one of the names for this is called calm and connect breathing, because that is what it does within us because of the systems that it's engaging. It's also referred to as 4-7-8 breathing. That one I like because it is really easy to remember. So what we're going to do in this practice is we're going to inhale nice and deep for 4 counts. You're going to hold your breath for 7, and then you're going to exhale with pursed lips for 8. Okay, and if you can't do that exact count, you can cut it down to a similar ratio. Okay, so let's go ahead and practice that together. And again, as we do that, be focusing, not thinking about your breath, but feeling it. Feeling that breath come through your nose, feeling it expand your chest, expand your rib cage, using your belly to bring in and draw that full breath in, holding it for 7, and then breathing it out through pursed lips for 8. Okay, let's go ahead and do a couple of rounds of this together. Eyes open, eyes closed. It is up to you. I think I'll close mine. And we'll breathe in together for 4. Holding for 7. And out through pursed lips for 8. Let's take it in for 4. Holding for 7. And let your shoulders relax if they've crunched up. I'll breathe out through pursed lips for 8. Really focusing on the feeling, the sensation of the breath in your body. Let's inhale for 4. Allowing your rib cage and your stomach to expand. Dropping your shoulders if they've come up, or holding for 7. Relax your neck if that's tightened. And we'll breathe out for 8. Coming back together. If you've closed your eyes, you can open them now. This 4-7-8 breathing is flipping a switch to moving us into that parasympathetic nervous system, helping us feel calm, helping us feel connected. And when we are calm and connected, we move out of just operating from that reward limbic system, and our brain starts allocating resources to other areas like our prefrontal cortex, where really cool things like decision making, discernment, willpower, emotional regulation, forward thought, consequence evaluation, and all of that stuff lives. These all are functions of the brain, right? Willpower is a function of the brain. Emotional regulation is a function of the brain. And as such, they all require fuel. They all require energy to operate properly. And we can tell our brain to send them energy, to send them fuel for proper functioning through breathing. And this is a great breathing practice to do that. You don't want to do it for more than a few cycles at a time. And if you are getting lightheaded or feeling dizzy or anything, then go ahead and pause on that one. As a new breathing technique, it can be a little bit much for some people. So you might want to start with like a 2 count, holding for 5 and breathing out for 6. And if you can do the whole thing, that's great too, but still only do it for a few counts at a time. So that's a really cool one. You actually can only do it for a short time. You're not even allowed to do it for a long time. And then take a pause and you can re-engage it again whenever you need to. So 4-7-8, calm and connected breathing. It's more than just woo-woo, elusive, hippy-dippy, mumbo-jumbo junk. We're actually using our breath intentionally to communicate with our brain and body so that we can be in the present moment where happiness exists only. Happiness only exists in the present moment. So these techniques that help bring us into the present are absolutely key. And when we're in the present, oftentimes we find that there's actually not really anything to worry about, that we can't change the past, and we actually can't live our future yet, but we can create it. We do create our future by the present we're living right now. The more we can be present and aware in our present time, with things like being in our full functioning through these techniques, the more we can actually create the future that we want, which will also help the past, because you're creating a past that you won't regret, because you're actually making conscious choice here and now, because you're actually consciously here now. So it's really important. The last one we're going to use is going to bring in all of our senses. This is actually a technique that is used in trauma healing. It's a grounding technique. And we know a lot of the stuff we deal with trauma triggers are things in the past. So coming into the present is not only a pathway to happiness, but it is a way to help regulate triggers from the past. And a lot of that shows up in trauma. So for this one, if you're comfortable, and again, if you're not ready to be in your body yet, do what you can, or just learn this technique and hold on to it for later, or do what parts of it you're able to do. You can't mess this up, okay? I promise. So if you're willing and if you're comfortable, go ahead and put your feet flat on the ground. And it is important to have your feet on the ground for this one. If you can be barefoot, even better. And I think that for just about everything, I love being barefoot. But if you can be barefoot now, go ahead and take your shoes off, socks too, if you're able, and plant your feet flat on the ground. I'm going to join you in that. I have my legs crossed here. Okay. You can lean against a chair. That's perfectly fine. We don't need any special posture for this. We don't need anything. We don't need to buy anything. It's really easy. So feet flat on the ground. If you are comfortable doing so, you can close your eyes. It can be really helpful for this one. And just sit comfortably but alert. Now, your hands, you can do whatever you want with them. Place them on your thighs or on your knees. You can have your palms up, you can have your palms down. You don't want to be scrunching up like this and like holding on, and that also gives your body communication. When we're tensing our body, our brain interprets that as danger, right? So just find a comfortable position that works for you. You can hold your hands in a receptive mode. You can put them on your seat, whatever. I'm going to have mine flat on my thighs for this. We have our feet flat on the ground. And again, if you're comfortable doing so, go ahead and bring your awareness to your shoulders to start. Just make sure they've not crept up to your ears. You can shake it out if you need to. Check your neck, make sure it's not tight and tense, and you can just do a quick scan of your body, making sure everything's loose and just comfortably sitting where it belongs. Now let's go ahead and bring our attention, our full attention, to our feet. Or at least most of your attention. Keep some on my voice. Take a moment to really feel the soles of your feet connected with the surface beneath you. What temperature is it? What texture is it? What parts of your foot is touching, are touching? I'm going to give you just a moment to take a few breaths and bring your attention there. Just be curious. What does it feel like right now to have your feet on the floor? Now I invite you to start drawing your awareness, if you're comfortable, if it feels okay and safe. Bring your attention up your legs, just scanning your legs, moving your awareness over your knees, up your legs, into your hips, and feel the seat beneath you. Whatever your surface you're sitting on, feel how it's supporting you right now. With that same curiosity we had in our feet, just recognize the seat beneath you, what it feels like to connect. No judgment, we're just noticing. And if you can't notice anything, if you're not feeling anything, just notice that. That's great too. And take a nice deep breath there. We'll move our attention upward, letting our awareness scan our torso. If you're leaning against a chair, you can feel the chair against your back supporting you. Just feel how everything, your furniture, the ground, your house, the earth, everything is supporting you right now. We move our awareness up our fingers, feeling our hands' connection to the surface. Moving that awareness up into the shoulders. Uh-oh, have they creeped up again? Mine did. Moving up through the neck, the head, the face, the ears, your chin, your mouth, your nose. Maybe you can feel the air coming in as you breathe into your nose. Your eyes gently shut. Your brow, is it furrowed? Is it tense? Go ahead and just let that melt. Bringing your awareness to the top of the head. Taking a nice deep breath here. You can sigh that out. I know that might feel and sound a little funny, but The sound also communicates to the brain and body that everything's okay. Now, having done a full scan, having felt with our sense of touch, take a moment to listen. Just listen to your surroundings. What do you hear? I can hear Charlie gently snoring behind me. I hear playful pitter-patter of raindrops on the roof right now. I hear neighbors down the street working in their yard. What do you hear? I'm going to be quiet for just a few moments and just listen to your space. No judgments about anything you hear or don't hear. You don't have to classify. You don't have to hear and say that's a truck or that's a neighbor. Just hear the sound. You don't have to do anything with it. With eyes still closed, let's bring our nose into it. What do you smell right now? I can smell that rain coming through. I smell the morning's coffee. Just take a moment and just smell what you smell. You don't need to classify it. If you don't smell anything, that's great. Just notice that. You can get curious about what it feels like to smell. Now move your awareness to your taste. What do you taste right now? Yeah, no need to judge. If you don't taste anything, that's okay. Just notice that. That's great. With eyes still closed, don't open them yet. I want to give you a little instruction before you do open your eyes, which we're going to do in just a moment, but not yet. When you open them, whatever you see first, I want you to examine it curiously and with wonder as if you're seeing it for the first time. And I want you to intentionally find the beauty in it. Intentionally find something to be awestruck by. Even and especially in the common objects or setting you have around you regularly. Just find something beautiful in it and don't look for something beautiful. Just let your eyes fall on whatever they fall on. And you don't need to plan it. There's no way to mess this up. No need to plan out, oh, I'm going to look at this because I know that I can find this in it. No. We're not coming into the mind. We're allowing ourselves to stay in our body, to stay in our senses. Take one more deep breath, letting go of everything. Just give yourself permission to be here now. And open your eyes. Just gaze upon whatever your eyes fell on and just see if you can find the beauty there. Find anything beautiful about it. Maybe it's a color, maybe it's a texture, perhaps a reflection of light. Maybe the shape is very pleasing. You can't mess it up. Just whatever you see is perfect. And just gaze there for a moment. deep breath of gratitude, I welcome you to the present. Doesn't it feel nice to be here? This is a great grounding practice that really engages our body with all of our senses, and it redirects our mind and our brain to the present moment, which gets us out of the stress and anxiety, those false threats that come from stressing about the future, worrying about the past, coming up with what if scenarios or I shoulda, coulda, wouldas from before. We don't need any of that. And the thing is, they don't result in happiness. Now, if that's not true for you, if being in the drama really does bring you to the present and to happiness, then keep it going. Most people, when they experience the opposite option, like we've just done today, they recognize how unpleasant it really is to be in that space that is not here. There's no way to live in the past. Not in our experience of linear time, right? Maybe there are ways, but not with what we're doing today. And we really can't live in the future. We can only live right now. And we can only ever find happiness right now. And we took some extra time with these techniques today so we can learn them. And you can use them for whatever extended time you'd like. You can also do the fast version of all of these, right? You can take 3 deep breaths. You can breathe for 1 minute. Honestly, 1 minute. You can do a quick body scan. You can use any of these tools in just a jiff. What am I smelling right now? What does it feel like to sit in this chair right now? What is it that I'm seeing? What's beautiful about this right now? Right? What am I tasting right now? Oh, what does that sound? What am I hearing right now? Just get really curious and keep in mind the brain responds very well and very quickly to questions. So when we can say things like, what does it feel like to sit in this chair right now? The brain will figure it out for you. It is a question answering machine. It loves to do it. So that tends to be more effective than feel what it's like to sit in this chair right now. Right? What does it feel like? Oh, the brain wants to know. It's going to help you figure that out. What is it like to take a deep breath? Right? What do my feet feel right now? The brain will go find out for you. So again, we're working intentionally with our biology to come into the present moment where happiness resides. The more we can engage in these practices, the more time we spend in the present, the better our quality of life will be, the better our organs will function, the better our immunity will be, the more our digestive system's going to work properly, the less inflammation we're going to have, the quieter our mind is going to be, the just quality of life will increase significantly the longer we spend in the present. Now, how do we remember to do that? As we talked about in the beginning of the lesson, this is a practice of, and then we wander and then we come back. And then we're thinking about, well, the things we have to do today. And then we come back and we are, I just said the dumbest thing. I wish I wouldn't have said, oh, wait a second, that's in the past. Let's come back to the present. And we come back. So it is a practice. So how can we start building a regular practice around these things so we can be here now regularly? You can pick all kinds of different ways to do this. In Plum Village, the meditation village, the community founded by Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh, has a mindfulness bell that is rung periodically. And everyone, when they hear the bell, they pause, they stop whatever they're doing within reason, and they take 3 deep breaths. And then they move on with the day. And it's just that reminder to come back to the present. So you can have an alarm on your phone, hopefully one that does not freak you out, one maybe a gong, maybe a singing bowl, something that you have go off periodically throughout your day. And when it does, just pause and do one of these practices. Or if you have another practice that has the same effect, do that. You can have it every time you get a notification on your phone. Before you answer it, take a breath. Do 4-7-8. Notice something beautiful around you. Check in with your feet. Get grounded, and then answer it. Every time you touch a doorknob, take a deep breath. When you're at a stoplight, engage one of these practices. When a certain genre of music comes on the radio, engage this. When you're sitting down to eat a meal, when you're brushing your teeth in the morning and at night, or whenever you do that, perhaps when you're in the shower, when you're waiting for the water to warm up, engage one of these practices. The idea is to take a regular daily action and tie this to it. And you can use that regular daily action to remind yourself to come back to the present with one of these practices. And the really cool thing is our brain loves shortcuts. So when things wire together, doorknob, breathing, then they wire together. So in time, with consistent practice, we can start engaging different activities and these practices to fuse together to happen automatically, which is really cool. And that happens over time. So find a way, find something in your life. Maybe you have kids, and every time your kids say, Mom or Dad, you engage one of these practices, right? Pick 1 or 100 daily activities, whatever you want to do, and start using that as your mindfulness bell to come into the present. And remember, the more moments you spend in the present where happiness lives, the happier you are going to be. The more access you have to the happiness that is surrounding you right now, that is your natural state. And notice, right? You don't have to log it. You don't have to track it, though you can. I would recommend journaling about your experience and what you're noticing, if that's something in your practice that you're open to doing. And do whatever you have to have that reminder so that you are able to put this into practice. And of course, if you're in a space of being triggered, you're up against something that normally feels stressful, those are great cues to pause and engage in one of these happiness practices and these bringing you into the present practices. The more time we can spend in our bodies and out of our mind, lose your mind, go out of your mind, the more happy you will be. And again, they've put Lord knows how much money into studying this stuff, and it always comes back the same. Be here now, right? Be here now. It's the only place happiness exists. The more you can be here now, the more happy you will be. The more satisfied, the more peace you'll have, the more serenity, the more access you'll have to your higher brain functions as well. If there's anything you do in life, let it be this. Try it, right? You don't have to take my word for it ever. Try it for yourself this week and see what happens. See if it changes anything for you. And be experimental. If one doesn't work well for you, try another one. And if one works well in this situation, but not this one, find what works, right? Get curious. This isn't a one-size-fits-all situation. And there are a lot of other mindfulness practices you can bring into the mix to make sure you are getting out of your brain, out of your mind, and into your body, which always exists here and now. This is my invitation to you. Should you choose to accept it, you get to practice happiness this week. Try it on for size. See if you dig it. And I'll see you next time.